Welcome to Sustain This, a podcast where we discuss mindful consumption, personal style, and the quest for living a more intentional life. I'm ALYSSA, a sustainable stylist.
And I'm CHRISTINA, a shopaholic turned minimalist-ish.
And I'm SIGNE, a color consultant and slow fashion style coach.
Together, we will unpack the nuances of what it really means to be a conscious consumer and find more joy in what we have right now. So grab your tea, your coffee, or whatever floats your boat and join us in the conversation. Let's go! Yay!
Yay!
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. So good to see you. So today we're talking about a topic that I'm really excited about. And I think it's a topic that's been making the rounds a little bit in the sustainable fashion space. We've been seeing more people talking about how style is self-care and a form of self-love. And recently, one of my favorite podcasts, Conscious Chatter, did a whole episode about how we need to sort of start looking internally in order to create change. So I thought that was really interesting. And I know that there is kind of this idea that self-care is like taking bubble baths and like doing all these cutesy fun things, when really it's not. I think it's a lot of internal work that we've spoken about before. Like SIGNE, you've talked about identity work, and CHRISTINA, I know you've spoken about how budgeting is a form of self-care, and like taking control of your financial future is a form of self-care, and I love that. So I'm going to throw it to both of you. Like, when you hear the words fashion or personal style as self-care, what comes to mind?
I think for me, like for the longest time, and I think we might have talked about this before, but for the longest time when I got into like slow fashion and minimalism, there's like this general conversation about fashion being frivolous. I also think that, there was this general conversation about like what you wear won't change the world, it's not going to change your day, and really like neglecting the years of scientific research proven by like psychologists and philosophers that what we are what we wear, like what we wear does have an impact on how other people perceive us, but also how we feel. So that's definitely like what immediately comes to mind, is that I've been on this journey personally from being going from being really into fashion and then going full on minimalist and being like, oh, fashion's not that important, I only need one of each, to now like kind of finding my way back to a more balanced approach.
I totally agree. I feel like I went through the exact same evolution when it came to my own personal style and like accepting it as something that is part of what I enjoy and like to do and like to feel authentically. Actually, it's kind of funny. All three of us were chatting last night and we were talking about values. And if things feel out of alignment with your values, you're going to feel really yucky. And I feel like after a while, when I was personally in pursuit of the whole like Steve Jobs minimalist wardrobe, the black t-shirt, the jeans, and like I totally appreciate how having less choice makes things easier. And how, the whole this like CEO mindset of like, oh, I have too many important things to think about than what I'm going to wear, so I'll just wear the same thing every day. And I'm like, that's fine. I can appreciate that. And if that helps you, great. But for me, and as you guys say, it's a form of self-expression. It's something that feeds you and invigorates you and makes you feel good and excited. And as you say, the psychological aspect of enclosed cognition, like, which is what you wear affects your performance and how you feel and what you do and your self-perception. So for me, personal style, and not even personal style, just like getting dressed and taking time to do that for myself is one of the highest forms of self-care that I've realized I could practice. And if someone thinks that's frivolous, then like, screw you. I don't know.
Say
like
it,
I can't. It bugs me. It bugs me now because I used to think it was really stupid. And I feel like the whole getting dressed and like having a larger wardrobe. And like I used to tell myself, like, you have more important things to think about. You have better things to think about. And I feel like I was just being so toxic to myself. And so it's just like, I kind of think back on that time and I almost feel bad and that I just like couldn't accept what it is I authentically enjoyed. And I kept fighting against it for so long.
Yeah. I think
That's
that's a
really
very,
well said.
very, yeah, a very like strong discovery that you've made there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Alyssa? What do you think about like when you hear fashion is self-care?
Yeah, I think it's like a sum of both of your points. That we can't really do good in the world. Look, like we're not all Mother Teresa, but like we can't really move through life in the way that we want if we don't feel good about ourselves, right? Like it kind of goes to that whole like you can't really love others until you love yourself, blah blah blah. Like that
Mm-hmm.
goes way deeper, but it's
Yeah.
it's true. Like how can you really help those in your community, all these things, if you're not really stepping into who you are? So that kind of, I was actually wondering, you mentioned values, but I was want to put the question to both of you. What if someone doesn't know their values? Like what if people are still learning about themselves? What are some steps that you both took to kind of look inside and discover what it was that you valued? Was it trial and error? Did you do like journaling? Like what was it? And then how did those steps inform your style?
I think it's not necessarily like a straight way forward. I think, yeah, exactly. And it's very much a feeling like we talked about in one of our previous episodes that when you get dressed, we always, like, I think it was you, Christina, who you mentioned that you always refer to it as something feels off.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just like an immediate gut feeling that this isn't right. Like it's, and
Yeah.
you need to pay attention to that and respect the way you're feeling, I think, and not like ignore that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's also like, yeah, definitely like listening to your gut in terms of what feels good, what you enjoy. But I think even starting with like, what are your hobbies? How do you like to spend your free
Mm-hmm.
time? What movies, cities, magazines, fashion icons inspire you? Like what
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like really looking for what kind of, I don't know, I want to say what turns you on, but like gets you
Yeah,
Yeah,
excited,
yeah.
gets you
you know?
going.
Who's to
Totally.
Yeah.
say you can't figure that out through clothing? I actually, there's a
Hmm.
quote in Fashion of Psychology, the book, which is clothing is a medium through which the self is realized. So I think it kind of shows that it's like our identity is very much like intertwined with what we wear. So maybe you can like make those discoveries as you get dressed and figure out who you are and what your values are that way.
Yeah. I had to do I went to therapy for it. I mean, because when I was like at the time I was like going through debt and I had a very like negative relationship with myself and like a lot of negative self-talk and like very kind of like my way to like power through I pushed through a lot of stuff and like a very sort of like David Goggins like stay hard mindset, and then I had to sort of like learn to be more gentle with myself and like figure out why I was pushing so hard against something that clearly subconsciously or consciously I really wanted but I wouldn't allow myself to have or to do for a long time. So I mean, honestly, but one thing I remember someone saying to me is like, "Who are you without this certain identity?" So in my case, it was like, "Who am I without?" At the time, I was getting out of debt, and once I got out of debt, I was like, "Now what? Now what? Now what do I do? Now what do I enjoy?" And it's like, "Who are you without this financial goal associated with your identity?"
Mm.
And then that's when I kind of had to start rediscovering like other things. What are the things that I actually enjoy? What are the things that are my hobbies? And I kind of like thinking back in my life, I feel like that's how I've been with a lot of things. Like, first, it was like studying really hard to get into pharmacy school. And then it was studying to become a pharmacist. And then once I did that and got in my career, I'm like, now what do I do? What do I like? I haven't read a book for leisure in years. So it's like, I think it's kind of peeling back things in your life and like other goals and um, whatever you almost have like tunnel vision about, because I think we can get really caught up in life of like like being your career and like if you have kids and all
Your
those things are
next
part of,
goal, like all the
yeah, like
time. Yeah.
all of those things are part of your identity. But like if you had to strip all that away, who are you and what do you like for completely yourself? And I think that can start to lead you into figuring out what your values are and figuring out the next steps in getting to know yourself, even before the clothes and the
Yeah.
closet and all of that.
Yeah. And then ultimately figuring out how you can show that through what you wear and how you can kind of let that be
Yeah.
part of what you wear. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Do you guys practice any like fashion self-care habits? Because I feel like sometimes when we talk about fashion as self-care, people will kind of misunderstand it with shopping as self-care, which is a totally different thing. So do you guys have any like fashion self-care habits you like? For example, that could be spending time on planning your outfit for tomorrow, or Christina, I saw that you got the new like the digital wardrobe app Index,
Oh, yeah.
like digitizing your wardrobe and like
Mhm.
having a nice time like putting together outfits. I feel like that those are all like kind of fashion self-care habits or acts of self-care connected to fashion. Do you
Mhm.
guys have any like form of habits you like to do in that sense?
I know Alyssa does, that's for sure.
Wait, which one? What?
Gratitude queen.
Gratitude.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
that one. Yeah.
It feels so natural that you kind of forgot that that's
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I was like, oh wait, I was thinking more. Oh, that's so good. Oh, thanks, Christina, for I was thinking more like on the clothes. I was like, oh my god, what do I do with my clothes? But yeah, always gratitude.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. Gratitude always in the morning.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in terms of habits, I feel like just simply taking the time to get dressed every day. Like I'm doing a lot of work from home now, and sometimes I actually a few episodes ago we did talk about work from home style, and Alyssa talked about having like an indoor shoe. And honestly, you're right; it's such a game
Ooh,
changer. That's a
Oh
tangent.
my god, I need to try it.
Yeah, because I'm
love that.
like I have all these like cute flats that
Right.
it's way too cold to wear right now in
Yeah.
January or whenever we're recording this episode in the wintertime. And yeah, I'm like, oh, I can wear them inside. Yeah.
Kind of like
Anyways.
allowing yourself, even though you're not
Yes. Yeah.
going
Yeah.
anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, honestly, that kind of ties back into personal style and clothing as a form of self care because I'm taking the time to get dressed and like cognitively, emotionally, like it's that feeling I'm invoking. Like I want to feel good. I don't want to be like in my leggings
Yeah.
all
No, because
day.
what happens when you do that is you're subconsciously telling yourself that today is not worth it. Like today is not worth getting dressed for.
I
So
feel like I've like out loud said that too. So you're right. I agree. I never thought
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Really good point. That's like a
So like a little
little
celebration
gem.
of each day to get dressed. It's like a little victory every day. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that doesn't mean that you have to like put on your best dress pants or like wear a blazer in the house all day, you know? But it's like, what can you do in your everyday just to feel a little bit more elevated and like you put time into yourself? Maybe it's, you know, maybe it's putting on blush or like doing your hair. It doesn't have to be just clothing. It's, or just putting on a lip gloss or something, right? Like something small that makes you just feel that little bit extra put together.
Yeah.
So you can carry yourself more.
I actually just bought like a little, it's really silly, like a little leopard scrunchie because I wear my hair back quite a lot, you know? I feel like that's such a stereotypical like mom thing. I just need my hair to be out of the way. But I feel like, you know, even on the days where I'm not wearing makeup and I'm wearing something really simple, just like that little pop of leopard is like, oh, I actually made a little bit of an effort today.
I love it.
Nice.
Leopard's
What
in.
would you?
Leopard's
Leopard
back.
Leopard's back. I mean, I feel like it never went away. Leopard's such a classic. It's like
I
such
know.
a right. Like it's so good.
We need to go. We need to talk about this the mob wife trend. That's going to be in another episode.
I'm wearing leopard
fully. Oh yes, that's amazing. That is amazing.
Secondhand find. I was
gonna say, are those new?
Yeah, they were a secondhand find. Like really. Not. I don't want to say cheap, but like they were. Like leopard is a neutral. I firmly believe.
Oh, I agree.
100%.
So I was like, maybe I should just try them out. I'm not
Those
sure
are good.
yet.
I love the kitten heel. I love the pointed
Yes.
toe.
Yeah,
pointed toe
they're
is like
really
my favorite.
comfortable.
100%.
Yeah.
Pointed
Just
toe.
while
It
we
just
were on the
feels
topic of
like
leopard. Yeah,
Should we
true.
do a whole episode on that, or like what are like
Oh,
must-haves
yes.
to like, yeah, okay, we'll do
That
that.
could be
I
fun.
think we
Yeah.
Mhm.
should. And that's a fun one. Okay. Good little tangent there.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. So Sina got some new to her secondhand boots in leopard in a vibe. So like, you know, some people, for those with the mindset of like, oh, that's so frivolous, I can't believe you wasted money on that, versus you who perhaps, well, I mean, talk us through it. How is there a way that you felt like buying those boots was an act of your own personal style self-care, nurturing that?
I just feel like, yeah, it's kind of to what we talked about, like kind of getting out of that whole fashionist frivolous thing and kind of celebrating yourself more. I feel like the same thing with like the stereotypical minimalist wardrobe. I think it's probably me trying to break free from that a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
because for years I wanted like one of each, like one white t-shirt, one gray t-shirt, one black blazer, all of the stereotypical, which are great. Like I love those core pieces still, and for me, like they're definitely doing it for me, but there are also like little quirks that I love more, that I'm trying to kind of allowing myself to explore, even if it means that, being a content creator, you won't have the most, I don't know, minimalist, aesthetically pleasing feet on Instagram. I don't know. Sometimes you get kind of caught up in that, the stereotypical minimalist, the whole minimalist aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of myself trying to break free from that, because I do like that unexpected edgy quirk, like adding that to my outfits. I actually really
Yeah.
do love that. Um, Even though it feels a little bit daring and a little bit statement to me. I like when I walked down the shopping alley this morning, I felt like people were just like looking at my feet, and I got really conscious about that. But it was like,
Own it.
I
Own it. I
yeah,
love
you
it.
kind of need to
Yeah.
lean into that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, I'm
And
trying
how
to
do you
just like,
feel wearing the boots?
I feel great.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I
that's
think
awesome.
sometimes maybe it's like being afraid to show that you actually, because I feel like a pair of leopard boots, you're definitely showing people that you're into fashion. And maybe we're afraid to do that sometimes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think a lot of the times I feel like we're used to like making ourselves smaller in some way, or like disappearing in some way, getting out of people's way.
Yes.
So if you're wearing
Yes.
something loud, it's like, no, I'm here, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's a way to
Yeah.
express that.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, totally.
I kind of like how that's almost like something that you can practice if you're someone who does struggle with taking up space or anything like that. It's almost a good little exercise that you can
Yeah.
do to work to build that muscle of self-confidence and asserting yourself and affirming who you are
Yeah.
through clothing.
You're so right. Yeah. Yeah, that's also a form of self-care. Yeah.
Because you're practicing. Because I think as women, especially as you both said, like it's we've been taught to not take up space and to just be passive, and
Mhm.
so
And
it's
literally be smaller, like
be
in
yeah
terms of like physically smaller,
physically
like
yeah
and
Mm,
wafy and like all of,
yes
so it's just,
yeah.
yeah, it's no, it's sweet to take up space and be strong and feel
hmm
bold if you want to.
It's funny, speaking of like internal sort of our inner confidence and what we buy and what we wear. There was someone, I got a comment recently on a video that was like, I can't believe you have a designer bag. I didn't think you were that shallow. This shows that you have
Ugh.
no wait, it gets better. This shows the fact that someone made like such a direct correlation to owning a designer bag with having and she said, well, it's clear you have zero self-confidence and you need a designer bag to bring up like to make you feel good about yourself.
Come on.
I
That's like, yeah,
yeah, and
anyways.
I just
oh my
it
God. Yeah.
cut the irony of this comment made me so like, and I didn't even I don't know if I'll respond. I just Like,
My
it was
heart is pounding. No, don't
so
respond. That's,
yeah,
I feel
like
like those kind of comments are meant to like piss you off and just like go out into the ether. And I feel like if you spend more time on it, then
yes,
like sometimes they never
100%.
see it again. So it's just like, no, girl, bye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Exactly. So, like, I
Yeah.
didn't wanna give it any energy, but I thought it was an interesting
it's a
I just
very
thought it was so
limiting, that's
interesting.
so limiting. It's such a limiting belief to me. I mean, there's a lot of
Yes.
reasons why we may want to buy designer, but like, that's something that you love that bag. Are you talking about the Loewe bag?
100%.
You
It's,
love that
like,
bag.
so
You
scuffed.
use
I love
that
that
bag.
bag.
Also, it is like
100%.
one of the most like quiet, like it's not like decked out in logo. Not to
Logos.
say that that's fine
No.
if you like, if you
Yeah,
want that too, who cares? But
totally.
like,
Yeah.
come on. And
Right?
that mindset, I feel like I have a video coming out on my channel talking about like this is a money mindset that
Mm,
I feel like I had to overcome, in the sense of
mm,
like, if you want to treat yourself or like buy something expensive or some whatever it is, like,
mhm.
or even just the mindset that like have all people who have money are evil, or like
Yeah.
buying designer goods are evil. There's a lot of psychology around it, and like,
Mhm,
you know maybe a lot of the people that carry those things are possibly, they could be broke, they could be stretching themselves,
mhm,
but like, what you did, what you took, the process of deciding that you
mhm,
want it, deciding that you are going to acquire it and using it and wearing it, and like, you earn the right to buy that bag and enjoy it.
thank
And
you.
Mm.
I just feel like it's a very limiting and uh yeah, it's a limiting
It's very
mindset.
small-minded.
Mm.
Yeah, sorry, not small-minded, but I just thought it was so interesting because it completely ignores the complexities of being human, and, like, it was actually the irony is that I only was able to buy that bag because I had finally found confidence in myself, and I had done so much like internal work on asserting myself and learning how to love myself and all these things. And it's like now I really felt like you said, I earned that bag and I'm so happy. So it was a completely backwards comment on so many levels. And I think yeah, like you said, Christina, like
And
it's a
that, to
very
me,
limiting belief.
it's a limiting belief also, not in the sense of like, we could talk about the money mindset of it, but like in terms of the fashionist frivolous mindset,
Uh-huh.
or like
Mm.
women buying a designer bag is
Mhm.
frivolous, but buying a Ford F-150 truck or a whole garage full of tools for men is fine. No one ever says
Yeah.
anything bad about that. So it's just like, women are, I feel like we have such a microscope under us.
Ultimately, like, our fashion choices is also, and I think, it's the whole thing about belonging to a certain group and wanting to
Mhm.
belong in a certain group. So it's like, it's, yeah, just let people be, and like,
Yeah.
yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
And
yeah.
you know what? So, and I find, because I feel like I had that mindset too for a very long
Mhm.
time. Um, that kind of like, that fashion is frivolous, or like designer is a scam. But I mean, like, I don't know. I buy it. I enjoy nice things. But I feel like I did a lot of work to get to that spot. And like, for me, it's important to not make those things, like, those things aren't making you go broke, and they're
Mhm.
not like a cover up for something else, which I used to use it as. There's a really great, if you have like trouble with this mindset, I really recommend Ramit Sethi's content. He's a financial creator. He's written a book. He's got a podcast, all really, really great content about money psychology. And he talks about this quite often, in the sense of, with your money, you have to kind of dig deep into what your values are, and what is it that you can spend extravagantly on, where you feel guilt free and that you're living. And so it's an extension of what he calls a rich life. So it could be travel, it could be designer, it doesn't matter. If it makes you excited, and that's part of your rich life, and you can afford it, that's the caveat, have at it.
Mhm.
That's
Mm.
because your money is a tool to be able to do that. And I just think, with the money psychology and then thinking like, oh, designer is silly, or I shouldn't buy clothes, or like all these
Yeah.
things are frivolous. I feel like it just it plays small to me. It's a
Mm.
shame.
Mm,
Yeah. Yeah, and I
it is.
think again it's important to not, get confused with, shopping as self-care. Like it could
Mhm,
be. I'm not saying it's not because it is like a form of leisure for some people,
mhm,
Yeah, yeah.
but it's just to say again that it could also be like a toxic way of not having to deal with certain emotions. So
mhm,
I totally get why people like go on that, I don't know, go in that direction sometimes, but other than
mhm.
that,
I mean,
I
I did
totally
for
agree.
years,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
So
you would know how that feels. Yeah.
yeah, so there's deeper reasons, but I think
Yeah.
like
But saying it's
yeah,
inherently bad,
that's so black and white. It's not.
yeah.
So
It's
black and white.
so that I
Yeah.
don't know. The internet is really missing nuance. I'm sorry you got that comment. That's
Yeah.
like
No, it's okay. I mean, it's like you guys have had comments like that before too, I'm sure, and it's
Yeah.
thank thank you. Thank you for the the girl power.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was very not nuanced. I was actually go ahead. Sorry, Christina. Go ahead.
oh no. I mean, I was just gonna say like and it is a privilege to be able to buy
Mhm.
designer or to spend extra money on your wardrobe and clothes and all that. I'm not saying that that's a very important aspect of it all, but I think no matter what your budget is, no matter what you're buying, there's still ways to. I think it's important to still feel excited and like this is some like part of your ritual that you can take to like give yourself some to show yourself some love and enjoy
Mm.
the process of getting dressed and feeling good about yourself.
Yeah. And I think
Mhm.
many people can relate to that if it's a more special item, it's just, the whole emotional durability we talked about. Like if you
Mhm.
feel more emotionally attached to that item, then you're more likely to keep it and to wear it. So that's the important thing, right? No matter where that piece came from.
And I think if we're looking at it also from like a slow fashion perspective, I like how I think we've spoken about this before, maybe not, but how if we're looking at adding pieces to our closet, um, I think it's important maybe to remember that, no matter how much or how little we're looking at spending, the whole point is that when you're adding something to your closet, it's still it's like an investment in yourself, right? Like
Hmm.
you're going to be the one wearing the piece. So you have to kind of consider it. You have to consider like what is it that you're bringing into your life, because this thing is
Mm,
going to take up space in your closet. It's going to like stare you in the face every morning when you open your closet. Is it going to make you feel good? Is it a piece that's going to make you feel good, or is it going to make you feel guilty? Is it going to make you
yeah.
is it going to remind you that, oh, I have to lose 5 pounds, or like no, like buy things that fit you now and make you feel good. And I think consider every addition as an investment, whether it's $2 thrifted or $5,000 saved for 3 years, because ultimately it's an investment in yourself that is
Yeah.
beyond financial.
And that should be like I hate the word should, but
Should I
I
know?
would really love for those purchases, whether they be $2 or $5,000, because remember, all of that is relative to the person. I would really love for it to always be something that you are excited about. Like,
Mm,
you're not
Mm,
losing if you make that purchase. It's something that you thought about, you're excited about, no matter what anybody else thinks, because the way you decide to spend your money, your time, all of that, it's I would really want that to be something that you feel joyful and guilt-free about.
mm,
mm,
It's a positive process, right? And that to me is the positive part of self-care too, when
yeah.
like in the relationship with yourself, in the sense of like not judging yourself about
mm,
it. Because I think the problem with all of that, at least for me, especially when it was like the whole minimalism and fashion is frivolous and Steve Jobs is my style icon thing, is like there was almost this like moral attachment to it. Like if I like
Mhm.
clothes, if I have too many clothes, then like morally, ethically, I'm a bad person.
Mm.
Mhm.
And I just like, it's not that
Or
black and white.
or you're like less intelligent or whatever. Like there's so many.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of shame attached to it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
a
There
lot of
even is
shame.
around the discourse around like developing your personal style, even like
Mhm.
I think because people are just talking about it so much that it almost feels like it's it feels like a moral failing if you haven't found yours or something. And it's like, come on.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a
Yeah.
lifelong journey.
Just wanted to bring that in because I think it's like, I mean, and there are like ethical attachments to it in terms of like overconsumption and all that stuff. That's what I mean.
Mhm.
It's nuanced, but I think like
Mhm.
you're not a bad person if you like fashion, if you want to
No.
invest in your wardrobe and in
Mm.
yourself. Like, no.
No.
I kind of hope people look at the podcast as like a form of self-care, especially if you like fashion, because for me, like
Aw.
I definitely
Mhm.
feel like ever since we started, um maybe that's where I've started to like allow myself more and not be so, one thing is to be kind of ashamed of what I do because it's
Mhm.
so not normal where I live.
Mhm.
But also just like the celebration of clothes in general, like getting back to that,
Mhm.
Mhm.
uh,
Yeah.
is connecting with other like-minded people who also like fashion. I think is also a form of
Mhm.
self-care in fashion.
I wonder if you're
Yeah.
talking about the element of like community, because when you have
Yeah.
that sense of community, that's a really beautiful value, and it is
Yes.
like having, like you said, like having other people who celebrate, seeing other people, giving permission to ourselves and others to enjoy style and work on it in a considered and thoughtful way. I think that sense of community, knowing that you have that community, is a form of self care,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
participating in that.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. And I think kind of bringing it back to values, I think it's like some people will value having a smaller wardrobe, like maybe having
Mm-hmm.
less choice and, kind of like a Courtney Carver Project 333 sort of goal in mind. And I think that's fantastic because I mean, if you think about it, no one really cares what you're wearing, but if you care, that's what matters, right?
Yes.
So I think whether you're aiming for like a smaller wardrobe that's very edited and just very easy to grab and go versus like a larger curated museum of a wardrobe or a maximalist wardrobe, it's like again, that all kind of comes back down to values and what gives you energy rather than takes it away.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a very individualized decision, but I think it's like really, really thinking about what it is you want out of your wardrobe and how you want your wardrobe to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
That comes back down to like really knowing what you want and owning that. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
owning part is the hard part sometimes.
100%.
That's where when we talk about like working that styling muscle and trial and error and all that, it kind of comes into that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Because Christina, you were saying, like, if we bring it back to values, what would you say, both of you, what would you say to someone who feels like their current closet is out of alignment with their values and they want to change? They want to feel like the clothes they're wearing are in alignment with their values and they're not, so they're feeling a little bit off, but like we don't have the financial means to completely replace the wardrobe, and also that's not really sustainable. So what would you
Mhm.
say to someone who has like recently discovered their values and is now feeling out of alignment with what they've already got?
I think it depends on what those values are. Like for example,
Mm-hmm.
if it's wanting less or if it's wanting to be more sustainable. I mean, I think it all kind of starts with your wardrobe, and I think that could require a closet edit, but it could also
Mm-hmm.
require, you know, carefully adding a new piece or something like that. So I think it really depends on what the values are. But um, for me, it's always going to start with the current wardrobe that you have. And like, I think
Mm.
assessing what's getting used, why,
Yeah.
what you reach for more often, whether it be a piece that's convenient versus a piece you actually love and that actually makes you
Mm-hmm.
feel good, figuring out how to wear certain pieces that you want to wear, determining the why behind why you want to wear that piece. Like, why did you buy it in the first place? What was your vision with it? So I think it's a lot of, to me, it's a question of like, start with why and then
Mm-hmm.
ask why to the why. until you
Yeah.
really get to the core.
Go
Mm.
deeper.
Yeah, I
Seen
completely
it?
agree. It always starts with your wardrobe, because it's likely that there's already something in there working. No matter if you're satisfied with that or not, we always kind of need that foundation. So I would always start with assessing what's already working. I think it's
Mhm.
highly unlikely that nothing is working. It
Yes,
definitely, like,
agree.
I'm not
Right.
undermining that feeling. You can't get
Mhm.
like caught up in feeling super
Totally.
overwhelmed and just be like, I absolutely have nothing to wear. Like, nothing is
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I would definitely focus on that, and then kind of building on from there to
Yeah.
to see like what functional requirements do you have. Like I kind of like, there's the whole dress for success kind of thing, which really what it's about is to like, you know if it's because you get a new job and you have new requirements for what you wear at your job, it's about figuring out how can you like build a wardrobe or build outfits that are coherent with that and appropriate for that job without losing yourself
Mm.
as well.
That's really important.
Yeah.
I like how both of you kind of answered that question with like you starting from within and internal, because I think it's something, especially in the like slow and sustainable fashion space, especially if people are new, it's so easy to get overwhelmed by like all of the shitty things about the fashion industry. And it's like
Mm.
animal cruelty, labor conditions, da, 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 da. And I think it's very easy to be like, well, my closet doesn't align, like I don't believe in slave labor, so nothing aligns in my closet. But it's like, no, like yes, it's important that you care about all of the issues, but we physically cannot satisfy all of them
Mm.
with our closet. Like
Yeah.
we great that you care about animal rights and all that, but like what are the pick so like I think like pick two or three, like pick your top core values. Like you cannot care about everything and express it. So like choose the values and what's important to you, as you both said, like figure it out from inside and start from there. And then
Yeah.
you'll probably find that you have items that you're fine with also
Yeah.
through that
And
process.
obviously, like, wearing your values, so like buying into like supporting brands that align with your values or your new values if you're trying to be a more like sustainable consumer is great, but it's also wearing your values to just wear what you already have.
Yes. That's huge
And I
too.
know people can't necessarily see that. Like, it's not like you can say, oh yeah, I bought this from this like amazing slow fashion brand. It's actually just old H&M, which might not
Great.
sound as quite as glamorous or whatever, but
But equally
it's
great.
yeah.
You know what? Old H&M's probably made higher quality back then anyway.
Fully.
Yeah.
Fully.
Compared to now.
Yeah.
But my other thought with this is like, as you kind of, it's very easy to get caught up in that. And I feel like, especially if you have perfectionistic tendencies, that's where you really like, it's important to be reasonable with yourself. And I just, and think if like the value that you want to adhere to versus what feels natural in your gut. One thing I think about a lot is like, is this a true value for me, or am I just being a perfectionist? Am I just chasing
Yes.
perfection? So that's where I think really feeling like knowing if something feels off and kind of trying to dig deeper into why that is. And that might need some like journaling out. It might need some, you might need to talk through it with somebody. But I think because of like, the minimalist movement, even the sustainability movement, I feel like it can really foster a lot of perfectionism and all or none thinking, which makes it, again, this is my technical term, it can feel really yucky.
Yeah.
I love that. It's the best
Yeah.
descriptor.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think keeping that in mind as well, because a lot of times, like for me personally, I'd struggle with things and I'd be like, does this feel gross because I'm just trying to be too adherent? Like,
Oh yeah.
am I trying to be something that maybe I'm not? Am I fighting against something else? Like, so I think it leaning into your authenticity and just like listening to your gut too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for rounding out that point.
Yeah.
I feel like I just like yell things at people.
No, what?
No, but I like how you kind of brought it, like that was really well said. Thank you. Okay. I don't know. I feel like we covered a lot. Any key takeaways that either of you want to mention, Sina?
I think it just, if we round it up, like fashion as self-care is that, yes, clothing can definitely like manage your mood, and it can be a like positive source of like inspiration and connection with other people, and it is definitely like a way to explore yourself. So yeah, it totally is a form of self-care.
I think so too. And for me, it's like the main thing I say this a lot is, but going broke to treat yourself is not self-care. So,
Yes, very
and
important.
self-care can be like, again, as we sort of mentioned at the beginning, a lot of people think of it as like bubble baths and retail therapy and that kind of thing. And I mean, sure, it can feel good in the short term, and I am not knocking a bubble bath or even a shopping trip, but it's like, what's the motivation behind it? And I think true self-care, as you mentioned before, Alyssa, is like living in alignment with your values and discovering that about yourself. Because self-care doesn't have to cost money. And I think these are all just things that we can do just to like serve that part of ourselves.
Ugh, you're both so wise. I think that was a really good conversation. Okay, so I think we'll wrap it up here. I feel like there were some really good takeaways. We'll leave everything that we talked about, any references in the show notes. But thank you for listening. If you made it this far, if you're watching on YouTube, let us know what you're thinking in the comments below. Give us a listen, rate the podcast. It's a lot of fun, and we want to be able to do this for you for a long time, hopefully. I don't know. So do all those things, and we'll see you in the next one. Ciao.
Thank you so much for joining in our conversation this week. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple and leave us a rating and review. It's one of the best ways to support the Sustain This podcast at zero cost to you.
We're also a community-led podcast, so if you have any questions for us, topic requests, or even guests you want to hear from, please send us a DM on Instagram at sustainthis_podcast. We read all of our comments and look forward to hearing from you.
We hope you join us again next Tuesday, where we'll talk about so much more than clothes. Ciao!